Hi, I'm Akash Chakraborty, part of the team here at Chaitown community. Welcome to another episode of Taxi Chalo. It's April and it's Autism Awareness Month, so I wanted to do something a little different for this episode. The guest I have for you today is Avi Ghosh, who is neurodivergent, and he has both autism and ADHD. Avi describes his neurospicy nature as both a blessing and a curse upon him. Today we're going to look at the highs and lows, the joys and pains of the neurodivergent experience from his lens. This episode is not only for people who are neurodivergent or ND people, but also their family and loved ones to help spread some understanding and awareness. Let's jump right into it.
Hi, my name is Avi, and I have the privilege, the blessing, and the curse of living in multiple countries and different continents, having multiple careers. I currently work in the education sector. I'm the managing director for 2 schools. And my special concern is being like a CTO in technical concerns. But I also help manage different other projects outside of IT. Before this, I was working and I was doing freelance writing. I was actually working in a company managing different writers or writing content myself. And I was also, before that, I was teaching English as a second language. Briefly was teaching in Canada. This was around the time of the Syrian refugee crisis, and there were a lot of refugees coming to Canada. And so I've worked multiple careers and lived in multiple countries. And I think I started living in Kolkata a few years ago, came here. I've been living here for a few years. Yeah, I think Chaitown specifically, I think I've done various things. I was part of a book club, been to different book launches and other kinds of events. And I learned of Chaitown actually last year. I came here with my friend Camille, and we had the open house then, and that's when we met the wonderful people of Chaitown. And that's been my journey so far.
Yeah, in terms of career, would you say you identify as an educator, as someone who is specifically in the education sector, or are there other things that you are still doing?
I would say, I'm actively, while my main hustle, if you will, is in the education sector. That's my day job. But my side job / hobbies involve writing and designing. It's write and other interests, but mostly, like I said, centered around writing and designing things. So I'm a neurodivergent person, and I have autism and ADHD, and both of those. So I think my autistic side loves to be focused on very specific things, even in my career. I don't love my job in general, but there are parts of my job I really enjoy, like helping people with technical issues, problem solving on that end, or when it comes to my interests. Like I said, writing is the main part, but I also love to design. I also love to document the various things, to journal. I call it journaling my ideas.
Okay.
So I love doing that. So it's a kind of like a conflict between my ADHD that loves to explore and do various things, and my autism that says, no, we're focusing on a few things here. So it's a fun little conflict that goes on in my brain.
So what are some of those signs that a parent might watch out for, or even the individual watching? What are some of these signs?
So there are 2 aspects to it. There are parents who might be neurotypical themselves and they have neurodivergent children. And there's the other side of the audience that we'll be talking about, that people themselves, especially adults. I myself as an adult, I was diagnosed in adulthood with as being neurodivergent.
Right.
I think there are going to be 2 segments of the audience that we will have to address in our convo. I mean, I went in mostly for therapy, and during one of my conversations with my doctor, she pointed out something that, hey, you don't do eye contact. And I was like, yeah, I don't. That's not how I converse with people. I feel like eye contact is very stimulating for my brain. It distracts me. So even right now, as you can see, I'm not doing as much eye contact with you as a neurotypical person would be doing. So she pointed that out, that, hey, you don't do eye contact. And she just said, you know what, I think you might have autism. And that was a shock for me. It was autism? Like the guy in Dustin Hoffman and Rain Man, that kind of autism? No, I'm not autistic. That's impossible. You're being ridiculous. And she just said, like, Avi, just go to this therapist I know and go do a test for autism.
Okay.
And just try it. And I was like, okay, this was like, it was a shock. It was a lot to process that I could have autism. And like, yeah. And like, I went to the therapist. We did like a 2 to 3 hour test. And this is a formal diagnosis test. And yeah, I came out as my label is a high functioning autism. And I remember after that diagnosis, like I went out of the building and it was like, my head was reeling. It was like a lot to process that this is who I am. Like a lot of the pieces are fitting into the puzzle. Now that I look back at it, so many of my experiences just fit in, that this shoe fits me.
If you don't mind me prying, what was like 1 or 2 of these things that, okay, this is like a sure sign that I am autistic?
So I think like I should start with what is autism, I think, for the audience that doesn't understand. As I would say, autism is defined as a neurodevelopmental disorder. It comes with specific traits, which would involve primarily social and communication issues, which I mostly don't have. Like not all autistic people are the same. So social and communication issues, sensory sensitivities, and restricted interests, and hyperfocus and hyperfixation. These would be, I would say, the character traits of being an autistic person. Like I think Rain Man is the classical example of it. He's a genius at something, but he's socially awkward. That's the type of autistic person we've seen. But autism is a spectrum. So that's what I would tell the audience, that there's many types of autistic people. We share some common traits, but not all of us are the same.
Are you comfortable calling it a mental health disorder, or do you call it a mental health condition, or what is it for you? What is it for Avi?
I'm glad you asked that question. So traditionally, we have defined autism and ADHD as being a neurodevelopmental disorder. Like it's been on the negative side of things. And increasingly, there has been a pushback from the neurodivergent movement has been a pushback against that. That, hey, ADHD is not all negative. It's an autism, it's not all negative. So it's not all bad. There are positives. So there has been a pushback against insofar as to recognize what neurodivergent, that term, I've repeatedly used that through this interview. What does it mean to be neurodivergent? It means that my brain functions differently from that of neurotypical people. I think differently. My brain is wired differently from that of neurotypical people. I think if I had to use an example, maybe it's the difference between someone who's a social drinker versus someone who's a chronic alcoholic. So there's a spectrum between the two. Like you could drink socially, and there are cultures around the world have drinking as a ritual, as a social ritual to bond with people, especially in community events. So there's that, but there's the bad side of it, that people can drink and become drunk and engage in disruptive behaviors, and they can become chronic alcoholics, and that's the bad side of it. So that's how I define being neurodivergent, that yes, my ADHD plus autism, that can have certain maladaptive negative traits, that it can manifest in maladaptive ways. It can affect me negatively when it comes to work, when it comes to personal life. But there's also the positives. It's a blessing and it can be a curse. And like I want to also talk about that, the blessing side of it, the the beautiful side of being autistic, of being ADHD, that I don't think differently. My brain is wired differently. And therefore, my inspiration, the inspiration from the universe, from God, if you will, it comes to me differently. It manifests in my brain differently. And there's the beautiful side of that.
Let's say you know someone and they are showing signs that they are neurodivergent. What is where do you is that a moral thing to do, to go and tell them that, hey, you do have this condition and there are things you should be considering that could make your life easier or something? Or would you say that is out of line? That's not something you should engage in. If they're fine, they're fine.
There's two aspects to this, to answer to your question. There are two quotes I'd use here. One, knowledge is power.
Okay.
Two, ignorance is bliss.
Okay.
Both. Knowledge is power, but also knowledge is misery. There's an aspect to it that knowledge can bring you, the truth can be uncomfortable.
Right.
It can make you feel bad.
Right.
But it's also power. And the ignorance, like I said, it's a choice between that. There's the two quotes and the contradiction between them. That you can stay ignorant of what you are and it would be blissful. Or you could know how your brain functions, understand that, and it can be painful to process that, but there's power in it. I think for me, personally, it's grief that I wish I had known this earlier. I wish I didn't know this late. And I think for most neurodivergent people, we would like to know from the onset, what we are like. It empowers us. It's also there's this sense of misery with that, but it empowers us to have that knowledge and to act accordingly and to advocate for. It allows us to better advocate for ourselves.
Tell me some misconceptions about neurodivergence that you wish people did not have.
So these are misconceptions. So the first misconception I want to talk about, it applies not just to neurodivergence, but also to mental health.
Okay.
There's the traditional misconception that anything from the neck downwards, that's health issues. That applies to health issues, and you go to the doctor to get it fixed. Anything from the neck upwards, that's only health issues that crazy people get.
Okay.
Any issues, health issues you have, that's something crazy people will have, insane people would have. And that's not true at all. Mental health is health. Period. Mental health is health. Just get that straight. And that applies also, again, to neurodivergence, that I'm not crazy because I'm neurodivergent. Mental health is health, and being neurodivergent is not being abnormal from being a neurotypical person. So I think that's the major misconception to tackle. And especially my message to parents who may have kids with autism or ADHD, your kid is not... Again, being in the education sector, I come across so many parents who are stressed out, who are worried that my kid has this, they're ruined for life. This is not true at all. They might need some help, some support here and there, but that doesn't mean they're broken and beyond repair. So so that's the next, I think, misconception that I would deal with, that do not panic. That's what I would tell. Do not panic. Do not go and fall into despair that my kid is a lost cause. They are not. There is help out there. There's support. Get them to go to a therapist, to a psychiatrist, talk with them. It's not, your kid is not a lost cause. And then also to neurodivergent people, especially adult neurodivergent people, get diagnosed, I would say, learn about your condition. You're not lost. You're not beyond help. I think the next pointer, if I could go to, ADHD and autism, that's not new. Being neurodivergent, that is not new. In Greek culture, you have the writings from Plato and Aristophanes that they have talked about people or ADHD traits. I'll tell you, Akash, we're talking about PTSD here. I read, there's some medieval writings out there by knights, by soldiers who are on the battlefield, and they talk about the horrors of war and how that haunts them. Classic traits of PTSD, it's right there. Mm-hmm. We talk about history, here are these billionaire polygamists or something, and here are the great things we did. And that's all history is about, but there's so much more to history, and especially the history of neurodivergence, of mental health. It's there. The writings, the texts are there, but you have never been taught about it. This diagnosis, the science catching up to history, I would say, and saying, hey, this is what this is about. This is just the science acknowledging that this exists.
That's an interesting point, Bora. The disconnect between the science of it and the history of it. What do you think has changed in recent years?
The science has caught up, that the research, we're still in the nascent stages, I would say. It's still very new, but it's increasingly improving and getting better. And I think like there's been acknowledgement. It's not just of neurodivergent people, but also of people with mental health issues.
Right.
The science has gotten better at understanding this thing. And I'm so grateful for that. I think that one positive, I would say is that I'm living in this era. I'm not living in the era of someone has schizophrenia, someone has maybe struggling with ADHD, and you're just crazy, you're insane. I'm grateful that we're living in an era of more understanding.
Right.
More research, more understanding, and hopefully more acceptance and empathy can come from it.
Tell me your main interests. What are the things that make you excited to be alive?
Good question. As I have said before, it goes to writing. I think I would primarily say my interest is in journaling about my ideas. Okay. I get inspiration from the universe, and writing is the tool I use to journal about those ideas. And I think that's been one of my major interests. Otherwise, I have interests in music and in books, reading books, I would say, mostly science fiction and fantasy, but sometimes beyond those genres as well. Here and there, I will dabble in different things. Socializing, hobnobbing, if you will, going to different social events, connecting with people. I think I've gotten better at it since being diagnosed. I've learned how to socialize better and connect people better. And there again, I feel like it helps to know.
How has this knowledge set you free?
Well, as I said, I think socializing to me, and here's where the autism and socializing can conflict with each other. So I think it's been a huge barrier. It's been very painful for me in two ways, I think. The major one would be my sensory issues. So here's what we talk about. Autistic people, I think I touched upon this, have sensory issues. And this is for a lot of autistic people, this is a huge struggle, that we can be very sensitive to certain stimuli. With me, it's primarily food, the texture of food and certain foods. This is a classic hallmark trait of autistic people, that they can struggle with sensitivities. Like jeans, for example, it's not as much for me. A lot of autistic people struggle to wear maybe jeans or certain kind of fabrics, certain fabric types, because it makes their skin feel like it's on fire. Like they've said, like a certain type of fabric, wearing it makes my skin feel on fire. I don't feel it, but there are other autistic people who struggle with. I do feel uncomfortable in jeans myself, but it depends for every different type of autistic person. For me, food, that is my huge struggle with socializing, because I struggle so much to find sensory-friendly, autistic-friendly food. It'll trigger my brain. It'll make my brain start flashing. I could get nausea from it. I could get migraines. It'll overstimulate my brain. And I think that's been the huge part of, as a Bengali, my struggle is there, socializing with other Bengali people around Bengali food. There's my struggle with it, because it is so hard for me to find autism-friendly Bengali food.
I feel like everybody, to some extent, this thing they have, which is that the texture of a particular food might just feel weird, but it's interesting. It's like the volume is dialed up, really high. Would you say that's an accurate assessment?
Yeah, it'll really stimulate my brain, and I cannot turn my brain off.
Do you think it's normal for autistic people to turn that off, or they cannot?
They cannot. It's not.
Okay.
Maybe the science could get better at this some point, but as things stand now, no, it's just not. Certain sounds will, if you have an autistic child, certain sounds will trigger them. Certain food will be a major conflict, I would say, for parents with autistic children. That you will have to help your kid find autism-friendly foods, safe food for them. That's one of the hallmark traits, I think, of autism, that we are often picky eaters, or that we will avoid certain stimuli because it really agitates our brain. So I think for my takeaway message would be to people who are friends with neurodivergent people, or family members of neurodivergent people, we need to work better about trying to create an accommodating society for neurodivergent people. Help us find the shoe size with the shoe size that fits us. Imagine telling everyone, you have to wear a shoe size. Everyone has to wear a 5 shoe size. Everyone has to wear shoes that are 5 shoe size. If you have a foot that's 10 size, well, too bad for you. And that's the problem we have in society. We don't acknowledge that not everyone wears the same shoes. or the same shoe size. And they're uncomfortable with a one-size-fits-all shoe for everyone.
Just share with me what is ADHD?
Right. So ADHD, again, in this conversation, we have talked a lot about spectrums, and this will keep coming up, the spectrum. Like this is a spectrum. Here's one end of it, there's the other end of it. So ADHD is, we look at it as a spectrum, that there's, and traditionally there's like 3 types of ADHD. There is the inattentive ADHD, there is the hyperactive ADHD, and then there's the combined inattentive plus hyperactive ADHD. So those are the 3 main types of categorization for ADHD. Previously, we used to use the term ADD for inattentive ADHD people, but that term has become outdated now, that we don't use it. I was diagnosed once as having kind of like ADD, inattentive ADD, but that term has gone out of the clinical lexicon. Before we talk about inattentive ADHD, we should talk about what's ADHD, the acronym. It's an acronym, Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder. That's the acronym for it. And if I had to explain ADHD to you, like think of your attention. That's like a laser beam. For ADHD people, they struggle to regulate that attention, that laser beam of attention, that laser attention. It is very hard for us to put it into something that we're not interested in. If we are very hyper fixated and hyper focused on something, we're passionate about something, our brains go crazy about it. We can go without food, we can completely cut off the world, we can shut off the world and focus on just that. And this is something like for parents with ADHD children, you will see that your kid is very, very passionate about something and they've really wired in, they get locked into something and focus on it. But if it's something if their brain is not interested in, it's so hard to get them into it. So it's the difficulty to regulate attention, to regulate focus into something you care about, to shift that laser beam. For neurotypical people who don't have ADHD, it's easy. It's moderately easy for you to, I don't care about this as much. This kind of chore I'm doing, this activity I'm doing. I don't like it as much, but I can put some attention into it. But with kids and adults with ADHD, it's hard to regulate that attention. So coming back, as I said, inattentive ADHD, it's mostly the difficulty to regulate attention. You are inattentive when it comes to many tasks and activities that you don't care about, that your brain can't focus into. So there's that. There's also forgetfulness. Our working memory can be short, so we can easily forget things. This is one of the classic traits of people with ADHD, and especially inattentive ADHD, that you forgot to bring your car keys. Your phone, you left it. Where is my phone? I can't see it.
Right.
So that's one of the difficulty for attention to detail, lack of attention to detail. Especially if you can't focus your attention into something, you're going to lose. You're not going to pay as much attention. You're going to easily make mistakes. So let's go to the other side. Again, across the spectrum, let's go to the second type of ADHD, that is hyperactive ADHD. So this is one of the stereotypical traits of someone with hyperactive ADHD, that they will be rocking, they're constantly moving, they can't sit still in one place. So hyperactive ADHD is the second type. And the third type is, again, it's combined. So they're hyperactive and they're also inattentive.
Is there anything in your life that you feel that this has not allowed you to do or be?
There are challenges, the challenges that come with it. Like I am so sensitive to loud sounds, to certain music, that I have to adopt. Like many people with autism and ADHD, we have coping mechanisms, or we avoid certain things. So if it's too loud for me, if it's too overstimulating my brain, I avoid that particular area. So I think it impacts my ability to socialize, especially at length. When it comes to my ADHD, if I'm not in that flow, that hyper locked in flow state, it's impossible for me to work. I can't, if I am not hyper focused and hyper fixated on something, it's so difficult to work. So I can't just pick up some random activity and do it, even though it's crucial for my work, for my success. It's hard to do that and be consistent at doing that. So I think that's where the disadvantage comes in. The analogy I would use here is that you have heard of this, the fish riding a bicycle, an elephant climbing a tree. Like, that is my struggle. I am an elephant. I can't climb a tree. I can't be a fish riding a bicycle. I'm a fish who's good at moving in water. And I think like it's a huge struggle for me to do things I'm not passionate about. My brain can't get focused into. So that's one of my major challenges. There's some adaptation I can do to an extent. I can adapt a bit. That's where therapy can help you. That's where medication can help you.
Right.
So there's a soft limit to how much you can adapt and fit in. But so many times I hit that hard limit that there's only so much I can do. That's where, as I said, I talked about assimilation versus accommodation. Like, I do my part as an individual to try to adapt and fit into society. But you need to help me. I'm a fish. Help me give me water to move into. The accommodation side of it. Give me water to go into. I'm an elephant. Let me be an elephant. So this is one of the major challenges that we have as society, that how do we create an inclusive society that is ADHD friendly, that's neurodivergent friendly? How do we have careers in particular that are friendly for neurodivergent people? The science is still, I want there to be more research about this. I want workplaces to have more training as how to hire neurodivergent people and how to create a workplace that's friendly for them.
Who are people who inspire you? Some people, whether it's in your professional life, whether it's out there in the world, it might be a celebrity, it might be a scientist, it might be an economist, whoever.
I think it's good to know, when it comes to real people, it's good to know that I'm not alone, that someone like Richard Branson has ADHD, or someone like Elon Musk has autism, or Bill Gates is said to have autism. So it's good to know there are famous people out there who are neurodivergent and just like me. Like, it makes me feel less alone. And it's good to know that there are people who have thrived in society being neurodivergent. So those were real person cases. But I think I also go towards fictional characters. For me, like, I think I remember seeing Forrest Gump, the movie, and realized, and even then, I was not diagnosed. I didn't know anything about myself.
How old were you when you watched Forrest Gump?
12, 13, 11 maybe?
Same.
Yeah. So, and I remember like very much connecting to Jenny and to Forrest. And it's like, even then, like instinctively, as I felt that, Forrest and I, like, we have some connections. We are relating on some levels, and we get bullied and picked on and othered by society for being different. So I think like there are fictional characters who also like I greatly connected to and related to. But these are neurodivergent people we're talking about. There's also neurotypical people who have given me inspiration, like Oprah would be a great example.
Right.
Or like even just like I said, like there's movies. Like recently I watched this great football movie. It's called American Underdog. And it was about a football player who didn't get drafted early into the NFL in his career. And he had to struggle a lot for years. He worked in a supermarket. And it took a long time to him to come to succeed and to get drafted into the NFL and succeed in his career. So I think late bloomers also, like Harrison Ford is a great example. He worked in Star Wars in his 30s. Before that, he was a carpenter. So I think like a lot of people who are late bloomers or who are neurodivergent, they inspire me. And they've helped me move forward, knowing that there are people like them out there.
What does the ideal teamwork setting look like for you?
Great question. And again, we touched...
no one likes to be alone all the time.
I think one of the big things we can do is to erode the stigma around being neurodivergent, that, oh, you're a workplace liability. You're a liability if you have ADHD, if you have autism. So I think one of the here's one of the things that ADHD, neurodivergent people do a lot, is that we mask a lot. We put a mask on our face and we fake being neurotypical. Otherwise, I'd say, I think like one of the big things would be to communicate, to create an open conversation and to remove the stigma around neurodivergent people, that you are not a liability. You're not less than compared to neurotypical people. That you have a certain skill set that you're bringing to the team, to the workplace, and to value that skill set. So I think open communication and acceptance would be huge. To talk with people who have autism in your workplace, talk with them and communicate with them on how to create a more sensory friendly workplace. Respect their boundaries, that here's the things they're able to do, here's the things that they're not able to do. So again, where the accommodation is everything, it means everything. So to try to create that friendly and inclusive play, to create a bigger table for all of us, to help everyone wear the shoe with the right shoe size that fits for them, that would be huge in a team setting. What size of the shoe fits for you as a neurodivergent people? And again, we're talking of neurodivergent people, but that could also be women in the workplace. It could be someone from racial, ethnic, and religious minorities. So that's a broader conversation we can have of inclusion. But right now, we're just speaking of neurodivergent people. Talk with us, acknowledge, highlight, and celebrate us.
There is some genuine fear, I would say, especially among Indian parents, about whether a child might be neurodivergent or not. Why do you think that is? I mean, the reason I'm bringing this up is because now, despite us having so many positive role models who might be neurodivergent, who might have a condition that impedes them in one way but really enables them in another, right? Why is there fear? Is it about just simply raising the kid? It is about the fact that they'll be treated differently? Or is it more to do with the fact that they believe it's endemic of something greater going on?
I would say it's broader than just Indian parents, I would say. Like even like in the diaspora out there in the outside of South Asia, the land of South Asia in maybe like the US, Canada, UK, in South Asian spaces, the diaspora, there's this stigma and the taboo. And again, it comes down to this, that anything from the neck downwards, that is health issues. That's about, health issues that we have. And that's something we can be concerned about. Go to the doctor, get it fixed. It's acceptable to talk about that. Anything from the neck upwards, that's crazy. Anything that's related to the brain, that's crazy people. That's insane people. And oh my God, that's it. I think that's part of the problem started with psychology. That for very long, we have had the psychology has been about abnormal psychology, deviant psychology.
Right.
And there's a broader conversation to have here about how psychology has said, oh, this is the person that's sane and insane, crazy, not crazy, and how I think the psychiatrist community, psychiatry has long been fixated on that binary, crazy, not crazy, sane, not insane. And we just we are very fixated on that. That it's either the other end, they're insane, they're crazy, put them in the mental asylum. And someone is sane, either they're insane or they're sane. And if you're a sane person, you can't have mental health issues. Your mental health can't go down. You can't have problems. We need to really, it's a huge step that we need to be taking there, that to acknowledge mental health as just being that, as health. My mental health is down, I'll go to see the doctor. I'll go to see the therapist, the psychiatrist. That doesn't mean I'm insane. You can't, again, only a judge, a qualified psychiatrist can judge you. That's a legal term, insanity. That's a legal term. Only the judge can say that you are insane, or a qualified doctor can do that.
There's a theory that autism specifically, that is a result of increased urban living. Do you agree, or do you think that's a dangerous concept to be going around?
It is a dangerous concept, I would say, because it's the thing is the science has advanced more. We have greater understanding. Before this, we just wanted to close our eyes, close our ears. That doesn't exist. That doesn't matter. So it goes down to that. Ignorance is bliss, but ignorance is also, I think knowledge is power. Knowledge does make you miserable, but it's better than the kind of misery. Ignorance is temporary. I would say ignorance is temporary bliss, but the misery that comes from not knowing is a lot more. So it's not anything related to urban living. The science is very, very clear. Not just the science, even if you go to the traditional texts, it's there. The signs, the traits have been talked about. So you just want to like this is what's so absurd to me. Like we talk about Aryabhat and him inventing the plane. I'm forgetting what it is. Like, can you help me out there? Aryabhat, like he
was a mathematician,
and he was involved with aerodynamics. I think he made a flying aircraft or something.
Yeah, he had plans for a flying aircraft.
Exactly.
Yes.
So do you really think that the great minds that existed in the times, they didn't study autism and ADHD and have plans and wrote texts about it? You just didn't look into it.
Right.
Scholars have not looked into this. This is why academics need to be going into the ancient texts. Already we know for Greeks, in Greek culture, in the ancient texts, they talked about ADHD and autism and PTSD. So there has to be an equivalent for that. I refuse to believe there's not an equivalent for that in the traditional South Asian texts.
Right. You said you love reading, writing. What are you presently reading? What are you presently writing?
Good question. I'm always writing whatever, like I said, the music from the universe comes in and I journal that down. Yesterday, I played this game.
What's your format? Is it like short stories, prose, poetry?
So mostly I would say it's journaling about ideas, but it could be like maybe a review. Like yesterday, I was playing a game set in communist Poland and I wrote a game review based on that. So I'm doing game reviews right now. Otherwise, in general, I'm journaling. I got this blueprint for something. I put it down. Maybe it's a T-shirt design that came to my head. Maybe it's just a quote by a character. So I write that down. I journal it down. Or like I said, I haven't done short stories in a while, but maybe I'll go back into it here at some point. So that's what I do for writing, I would say. Reading-wise, it depends. It's either comfort reading. I always go back to maybe Harry Potter, or maybe Satyajit Ray used to write a lot of science fiction stories, short stories. So I like to go back to that. So that's my comfort reading. But otherwise, beyond comfort reading, I would be, I don't know, it's maybe like a self-help book, like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, or again, going back to science fiction, reading Ender's Game.
So that's nice. Ender's Game is nice.
So typically, like I said, I mostly go for short read-ups. I think I love doing that. Like I come across a topic I'm interested in. I will do some research on it. I'll do some reading on it. I would say, yeah, science fiction and fantasy, definitely look towards, I think we need to move away from the English-speaking market. I would say definitely go into Japan. There's so many great science fiction anime out there and mangas. So Absolutely. Ghost in the Shell or Akira, if we're going to the classic end. So definitely go read those. I think Japan has so much a wealth of good science fiction work. So go beyond the language. That's what I realized. Even like for Bengal, like Samit Basu would be the big one, I would say, the big wig for science fiction and fantasy here. But even like, I think like, to me, Satyajit Ray is underrated for, I think like his great classic science fiction set in Bengal. And that for me, like it just grounded me so well into Bengali culture. For me, that was my access point. There's so much struggle I have. Like I feel like my identity is split in different planets. Being Bengali, being neurodivergent, being a survivor, it's just completely on different planets in the galaxy. But there has been so much, it's been, like for me, Satyajit Ray and writers and artists like him gave me that accessible point to experience to combine those planets, to bring them together, and to have that context in which to experience my identity.
All right. Avi, if that was you masking, I couldn't tell. That was wonderful.
Wonderful talking to you. Thank you. You're a great interviewer. This was a great interview. Thank you for doing this. Especially thank you, shout out to Beth and to Chaitown for doing these interviews. Like it's the first step is to be seen and to give that knowledge. I hope I can give that knowledge to the audience, people listening to this. I can give you the power, especially to neurodivergent people out there, or those who have family with neurodivergent people. I hope I'm giving you that knowledge and the power, and also the pain that comes with it, but mostly the power that comes with the knowledge to know who you are, know thyself.
I think that neurodivergence and the disorders that are linked to it have a very loaded past here in India. Autism and ADHD in particular, they are seen as bringing zero benefit to autistic and ADHD people. This is simply not true. The neurodivergent movement seeks to reframe the conversation about cognitive and developmental disorders. As neurodivergent people often say, differences, not deficits. And this is very important for us to understand. We aspire to create a present and future Kolkata where everybody has a place at the table. And we here at Chaitown have always welcomed neurodivergent people, and we hope to continue to do so. Like and subscribe, leave a comment, tell me what you think, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Thanks for watching.